It's the 30th of October, Rabbi Levitt, Horeb. Yeah, our Bein Hazmanim schedule is all messed up in the afternoon because of that change.
Yeah, Mary Yeshiva was.
Yeah, so they're going.
They got the call earlier this week that they're being summoned back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why are they doing that?
I'm assuming because that's our main protection.
Because
We can't afford to keep going without our protection.
I see. Well, that's very good. That's very good because we need it. We're in build. We're in the midst of a big mess.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Hashem is helping us a lot with that stuff.
Yeah, so we have to right. There's Hashem. So we are in good company today. We're no longer being as money. Yeah. So we were in the middle of I think we were in the middle of we're in the middle of chapter 90. And we got up to we didn't finish section 583. We got the last paragraph in 583. Maybe we didn't read it.
I think we read it.
Yeah, I read it also.
He would have succeeded in bringing about an improvement by administrative abuse and has not tried to do so, shares responsibility. Okay. Oh, Pasik and Daniel. Okay, very good. So we'll start with 584. We go to Mayor to start off the reading today. Please.
Okay. If your brother was wrong, if your brother has wronged you, and if you can forgive, forgive so completely that you forget the wrong and not even a trace of animosity remains. Praise be unto you. Forget and be silent. If you feel, however, that you will not be able to do it easily, if your offended heart is forever thinking of this wrong, then hurry and carry out the duty which this specific command lays upon you, and take him aside and ask him how he could have been so unjust, so unkind towards you. Perhaps, perhaps he will be able to defend himself. Perhaps you are the one that is in the wrong. Perhaps by making amends and pleading with you, he will gain your full forgiveness, and you will procure for yourself that blessing above all blessings, peace, and will protect yourself from the base sin of carrying enmity and animosity within you. But if you are not absolutely convinced that your brother has sinned against you, but you only think it, only suspect it, it has only been told to you, then do not in any circumstances refrain from calling him to account. How terrible if you have been mistaken, if you have been falsely informed. For then you would inwardly view the innocent one with dark suspicion and would consider him an enemy, while he would be thinking you regarded him as a friend. Oh, let everybody, every single person who feels injured, insulted, offended by someone, or even thinks he is, fulfill the sacred duty and himself call the other to account. 1,000 souls would be united who otherwise remained estranged in wretched enmity. In 1,000 houses, families, communities, golden peace would reign, where now discord and dissension hold sway. For what happens when this duty is carried out? From that moment, the genuinely offended, or he who considers himself offended, and the offender no longer speak to each other, never come to an understanding. Each avoids the other as he sees the other avoid him. They become strangers, enemies, find real reasons for enmity because their souls are so predisposed. And the feud is passed on even unto their grandchildren. The feud, which is a moment's conversation, could perhaps have nipped in the bud. Okay. And above all, those whose duty it was to bring together the two estranged brothers, to heal the breach, to extinguish the flame, those same ones are occupied in enlarging the breach, stirring up the flame, and keeping it alive by carrying tales. Is there not somewhere among Abel's curses a curse for him who promotes and encourages dissension? For the worst penalty would be too light for him. Indeed, there is. Cursed be he that smiteth his neighbor in secret. From Devarim. It is not a blow by the fist, or the sword, says our sages, that is the cause of this curse, but an attack by the mightier, the deadlier tongue. Wow.
Okay. So this is a part of the mitzvah of Tochacha, of giving reproof that Reb Schwab is not Schwab, Reb Hirsch is saying that if Jew number one feels that Jew number two has wronged him, whether he knows it for sure, whether he suspects it, whether someone else has told him, in all these cases, the Torah says that really what should be done, there's an obligation. There's an obligation on the part of the person who's been wronged to confront the other person. And you might say, oh, well, aren't we against confrontation? Why should these people confront one another? Why should you be confrontative? It's not good to be confrontative. But here, this is a confrontation which the Torah envisions is going to lead to a reconciliation, be'ezus Hashem. And without that confrontation, it will just like Ramesh says, it slowly and surely makes the two parties more and more distant from one another until they actually are like they pretend like they don't know one another, and then they become enemies, and then Reverse interestingly says they find real reasons for enmity because that's the nature of a person. The person that the Jew number one thinks about Jew number two badly, he'll look and see things that he does, and he'll judge it unfavorably what Jew number two does, and it'll even increase the enmity. And then he goes so far as to say it becomes a family feud or a community feud, and it's passed on even to the grandchildren. And it could have been nipped in the bud if there would have been this initial confrontation from Jew number one to Jew number two. Please, why did you do that to me? He says, what did I do? And then the conversation goes from there, and the Torah envisions that as not that it shouldn't end in real machlokes and real sinna, but it'll end in a reconciliation, because that's the only way that the parties can be reconciled, is that they come to some type of a understanding with one another. Now, of course, if Jew number one is not interested in coming to a reconciliation, and he simply is being confrontative and just going to express his hatred for Jew number two, then maybe he should think twice about approaching him. That's correct, because he's not interested in making a reconciliation. But maybe he'll wait and think it over for an hour or a day or a week or a month before he approaches Jew number two. But that's what the Torah envisions, and that's why the Torah requires Jew number one to confront Jew number two, and as Rav Hirsch says, to ask him to give an accounting. That's the way he says it. Okay. Calling him to account. Okay, very good.
It's interesting that he doesn't say, you're not allowed to believe the Lashon Hara.
Mm-hmm.
He says, go and solve the problem. Don't just say, okay, I'm not going to believe it, and try and bury it, because you can't. It'll eat at you.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about that the person has believed it, and he now feels a trace of animosity towards this person.
Right.
But you're right. If Jew number two comes to Jew number one and says, "Oh, do you know what Jew number three said about you? Do you know what he did to you? You know what he's planning to do to you?" Of course, you're right. The first thing is the Jew number one should do is to not accept the report.
Right.
And I mean, unless you're talking about a story like Gedalia. He says he's coming to kill you, so you can take steps to protect yourself.
Right.
But otherwise, if a person is successful as to just not to dismiss it and to not believe it, then of course that's the best. That is the best. You're right. He's talking. The person's talking where the person wasn't able to do that, and he can't let go of it. So what should he do in that case? He can't let go of it. He's harboring a animosity towards this person. What should he do? So the Torah is giving him excellent advice.
Right.
Okay. Chapter 91. Yeah, we have to have a round of applause for this very, very important Chapter 90, Teaching and Exhortation. Interesting. Just thinking right now, it's interesting how we put these two subjects together. Teaching and exhortation. Yeah, because, I mean, in other words, if it's not a matter that concerns, if Jew number 2 is doing something which is not directed at Jew number 1, it's not a personal thing that he did to Jew number 1. He's Machal Shabbos, let's say, and Jew number 1 is giving him tochacha about that. So he's basically teaching. It's a form of teaching. It's a form of teaching Jew number 2 that this is something that he must not do. So I guess that's why teaching and exhortation go together, because really, in that scenario, the reproof is a form of teaching. Okay, 91. We go to Lou.
Okay, so I have a question about the translation. My translation says general rules on equity, love, and gratitude. And the Hebrew says la'asos hatov v'hayashar. So I would translate that as doing good and just.
Right.
So should I cross out the English, or is there some way to understand how the English is working?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what gratitude, how that comes in over here. Equity, we could understand. It's a fancy word for doing the right thing, I guess, and we could understand that. Love, maybe that's the source of why it is that how the person would get the wherewithal to do this over here. Because I think we're going to see that this is we're going to see that to do like this does. In other words, what are we referring to? We have to ask ourselves, what are we referring to when we say this? Lastos hatov hayashar. This is the first pasuk. It's a pasuk in the first pasuk that he quotes over here. That's the words of the pasuk, right? They translate it over there. Do what's right and good in the sight of Hashem. That's the. If you take a look at that pasuk, you'll see that both of these words, hatov hayashar.
Right. So hayashar is being translated as right.
Right. Right.
Which is similar to just.
Right.
Okay, so and thou shalt do that which is right and good in the sight of the Lord. But thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
Huh?
Stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land. Inexhaustible as life itself would the law of love need to be, were it to throw light on every single possible contingency in which you might be called upon to become a blessing. Therefore, for everything that cannot be deduced from the existing special rules, the Torah offers us general rules by means of which we can easily establish what the duty of love requires in any given circumstance. And thou shalt do that which is right and good in the sight of the Lord means do what you feel God, who is love himself and calls you to love, would recognize as good. That is in harmony with the will of your brother, and as right, that is in harmony with your own vocation. In every case which is not specifically dealt with by the law, ask yourself what the all-loving God and your own duty of love would have you do, and act accordingly. Our sages emphasize in this respect that one should not be inflexible in the pursuit of one's rights. Strict as you should be towards yourself, you should be as equitable in the pursuit of your rights against your neighbor. Where it is a question of renouncing your rights for the greater benefit of your brother without yourself suffering a loss, be prepared to do so. Do not use the language of Sodom. Quote, what is mine remains mine, and what is yours remains yours. I stand on my rights, end quote. And remember that the all-loving God requires you to be equitable. Our sages so conceived this duty that they themselves enforced this equity, even through the judge's power, wherever it had been willfully refused. So, for instance, if your brother has not discharged an obligation towards you, and you have actually seized his property, you must return it to him even after many years. If he, after that long period, has discharged his obligation towards you in some other form, as long as the property you seize has not been acquired by a third party as his lawful property. Or, for instance, in the case of a field which it has become necessary to partition among parties, one of whom already occupies adjoining land, that party should be allotted the portion of the field which adjoins his existing property, provided that such an allocation does not give him more than his due share of value in the field. Even if you buy a field, etc., situated outside the boundaries of your own property, you must not refuse to make it over to its neighbor against reimbursement of the price you paid. Similar rules apply in other cases.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this is quite a subject over here.
Yeah.
So this is brought in two places. He's got two places in Mishpat and Shulchan Aruch, which bring these principles that he's talking about over here as the. I wonder, be interested to see how the Shulchan Aruch describes this what we're talking about over here. Now, is this just a good thing to do? It's a praiseworthy thing to do, or it's an obligation. You could yeah. He mentions over. He doesn't mention where the Gemaras can be found, but there are Gemaras over here that he's referring to. Our sages emphasize in this respect one should not be inflexible in the pursuit of one's rights. Strict as you are, you should be in regarding yourself. In other words, not to have in possession things that belong to other people. You should be as equitable in the pursuit of your rights against your neighbor.
Alan is trying to get in.
Alan is trying to get in.
He sent 5 emails. I didn't see them until just now.
Let's see.
Wow.
Does he appear on the roster of participants? No, I don't see these.
Back in the link.
Yet appeared.
Come in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's interesting that he mentions over here what it says in the Pirkei Avos. Shali shali shilcha shilcha. That's called midas Sodom.
Right.
What's the problem? Right? Doesn't what belongs to me, I deserve to have it, and what belongs to you, you deserve to have it. That's the rights. That's midas Sodom, it says. So what are you supposed to do? So this pasuk is saying that you go beyond that under certain situations. Our sages so conceive this duty that they themselves enforce this equity even through the judge's power. Okay. Okay, 586. Back to Mayor.
Okay. Oh, let me just turn the light on. Okay. Another general rule is laid down in the words "as thyself" contained in the sentence thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. If the Torah were not explicit about the detailed duties pertaining to the earth, the plants and animals, even to your own body, you would have no means of knowing what your conduct should be towards any of them, since their inner nature is wholly inscrutable to you. You would not know whether in striving to do good, you were in fact causing harm, and whether where you intended to build, you in fact destroyed. For the essence of these things is a mystery to you, and you can but surmise their nature. But of the command, promote the weal of your neighbor, no further explanation is necessary. As to what will benefit him and is for his good, what may cause him pain or joy, happiness or grief, about that you cannot be in doubt, about that you need only consult your own feelings. Where you feel that such a thing done to you would grieve you, where you realize that if done to you, it would cause you harm, never do that to him. Where you feel and realize that such a thing done to you would bring you joy and happiness, do that to him. For he is your brother, made in the same mold. If you know yourself, then you also know him. That then is Hillel's pronouncement, that which is hateful to you, do not do unto your neighbor. And therefore, he could present this one phrase as a fundamental conception of the whole law. For every single one of the other laws aims at nothing else but justice and love towards all creatures, or education to this end. And if you were able to judge the feelings of all other creatures in the world and recognize them from your knowledge of yourself as you can with mankind, then there would be no need of anything more than this commandment. As, however, that is not possible for us, especially through our having grown away from nature, the law must therefore set out and unfold for you the duties towards the rest of the world in every single detail. As a matter of fact, therefore, the law is a commentary on this one phrase. But beware of the following ill-expressed version of Hillel saying, do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. For it may easily be misinterpreted as meaning, be just and loving towards others, so that you may be treated with justice and kindness. Do not do no injustice nor unkindness to others, so that no one may do injustice or kindness to you. For that would be that would be elevating petty. What? Why is it care? I'm not sure what that is. Why is it occur? Smartness into life's philosophy. That would be bargaining and posing self-interested calculation as the source of that justice and love, which in fact should flow purely and freely from your heart, from the word of your God, by which he calls you to justice and love. The phrase thus interpreted means death to the whole dignity of man. It is not the law of Israel. Among the cases which are not expressly decided by the law, Hillel's rule is principally applied by the sages, where the problem is to find the mildest, the most indulgent, the least degrading manner, even in inflicting due punishment on a criminal. Thus, no, the saying of Hillel further teaches you never bring about a situation where it is possible that you may be able to give that love to your neighbor, which he is justified in demanding, and which is necessary to his happiness, and to avoid watching your fellow man in circumstances that would lessen your respect and affection for him.
So, in other words, what Hill says, that which is hateful to you, don't do unto your neighbor. Hirsch wants to say, that's the end of the statement. Period. That's what you do. Whereas what he quotes over here, be just and loving towards others, so that you may be treated with justice and kindness. That's the so that is not the is not the it's not the law of Israel, says Reb Hirsch. And similarly, do no injustice nor unkindness to others, so that no one may do injustice nor unkindness to you. That is not the Torah philosophy. It's not about being a good person so that people will be good to you. You do justice and love because that's what Hashem wants you to act like. Period. He wants you to elevate yourself to that level of that's your honor and that's your merits that you act in that way. And that's how I understand what his reservation is with the ill-expressed version of Hillel's saying.
Mm.
I'm confused. I don't see the difference. Do not that which is hateful to you, do not do unto your neighbor, versus do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah, if you but leave out the you're doing this so that blah 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 blah. You see read it over again. He says, but beware of the following ill-expressed version of Hillel's saying. Do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. Because to say that is going to lead to the incorrect way of saying be just and loving to others so that you will be treated also in that way. Don't do injustice to others so that no one does injustice to you. So in other words, the correct way is like he said originally. What's hateful to you, don't do to your neighbor. Period. It's all about what you are obligated to do in regard to your neighbor. It's not doesn't have anything to do about how he is going to act towards you. So when you say do unto others what you would not have them do unto you, it's getting into the reason that you're doing what you're doing is so they'll do likewise to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ulterior. It's not purely motivated out of love for your fellow man or doing the Ratzon Hashem to do justice, but it's sort of like a good policy to ensure your own best interests. Sort of like saying honesty is the best policy. So now the whole point of being honest is because it's going to work out the best for you. That's not why we are honest. We're honest because Hashem is honest, and it's the elevated Midah that we aspire to. We don't act in the way that we act in order that or so that other people will act to us in that same way. That's not the reason why we act the way we act. Because, of course, you can understand that if that's the only reason why I'm going to act in that elevated way, so that'll allow a person to make an exception. He'll say, "Look, this other person is he's not going to act towards me in that way. So why should I act in the proper way towards him?" So it leads to suspicion and animosity and pursuit of self-interest. It's not the Torah's idea of elevated behavior.
Okay.
Oh, that's time?
Yep.
It's time. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, everybody, have a great day.
Have a good day.
You too.
Tovot.
Okay.
Tovot.
See you tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.
Bezrat Hashem.